All right, I just can't stay mad at Bobby Slowik. I want more for this offense. Right now, they are the 14th scoring offense, but the Kansas City Chiefs are the 13th scoring offense. I'm not going to kick Andy Reid out of the building up in Kansas City because of that, but they need to get better. The Texans need to get better, not by trading for a wide receiver, but by getting better pass protection, by being more consistent in the run game, better offensive line play, but also better tight end and running backs play in pass protection. All those things that we know. But Bobby said all the right things the other day, mostly, and I think taking accountability for a lot of this, and he's still got to deliver on it. But I liked a lot of his answers. First question was from Aaron Wilson about the potential communication issues with the offense.
Protection issues. You were talking to some of the linemen. They attributed to a communication issue. When you reviewed it, some of the things that Green Bay was throwing at you, do you attribute it the same way, or do you think there's some other things that need to be fixed and addressed to get these guys blocked?
Yeah, I think, it's always a multitude of things. It's never just one thing, right? But it's shown up probably about 3 times this year where we've had some issues in protection that are completely controllable. So for me, that starts like with me. I'm not doing something right. I'm not coaching something right. I'm not saying things in a way that needs to be interpreted the way it needs to be interpreted. Because honestly, the things that we missed in the game are things that D'Amico's been giving us day one in training camp. So it's stuff that I know they've seen and they've done and they've knocked out before. Obviously you're on the road, you're in Lambeau, communication is going to be hard. You got to strain in that regard, but we've been working on that part of it for 4 weeks. Like we've been working on what it's like on a road game, even when we have a home game. We've been straining on silent. We've been going on silent cadence even on weeks like this. So, that's been an emphasis for us. You see it in the pre-snap. Now we got to see it in the post-snap, and I got to find a way to get that out of our game.
Okay, I did like, and I don't think he was conspicuously trying to point out a positive as he was addressing a negative, but the improvement in the pre-snap penalties. Okay, that's something that they've definitely worked on. We've seen that. Some of the stuff that's going on right now, and he says it's a multitude of things, specifically when you get to the mental errors and the communication. Okay, there's times on the road where the calls are going to be harder to hear. Somebody might misinterpret it, or there's just general chaos before the snap where guys don't process it quite as quickly. You got to work on that. Getting the actual calls out. I know we saw instances where they were struggling to get that done, but I think they've improved at it over time. A lot of it really for me right now is some of the mental errors in picking up the blitz or adjusting to line movement, defensive line movement and slants and stunts in the run game or the pass game. That's the part that's frustrating because these are not stupid guys. This is not a stupid offensive line. Everything that Bobby Slowik, I think, said is 100% correct in the way that a good coach doesn't ask, why are these guys so dumb? Why are these guys not getting it? It's all right. There's something being lost in how we're processing the information. How do we get it right, snap by snap within the game, all of that. And I'll just point to a couple examples. Titus Howard and Laramie Tunsil, both bright guys, both veteran players. Dare Ogunbowale, a 30-year-old running back who's been kept around partly because he's smart and good in pass protection. It's not just the special teams. There were instances in these last couple of weeks where clearly the offensive tackle and the running back weren't on the same page. We've got an offensive tackle and a running back blocking an off-ball linebacker while an actual edge rusher runs free. That's not the way it's drawn up. And sometimes it's a matter of going back to basics. As a defensive player, there are times in the NFL where I was on defenses where they might be struggling in the run defense. We might be struggling in the run defense. Accountability, Seth. And honestly, it goes back to, all right, we got to do more walkthroughs. We got to just see exactly how things fit up. And sometimes there's just kind of a glitch in the matrix as far as how guys are processing things. And I almost always, when proven veteran offensive linemen are making mistakes or a veteran running back is making mistakes in pass protection, somewhere along the way, it goes back to the process and the way it's being taught, or if the game plan is too complex, whatever it might be. And I expect the Texans to improve this week on that. I think they're going to be a lot better in that regard. I'm calling this game 28-13 Texans. So yet again, I will be taking the under, but not because of offensive malfeasance. Go to BetUS right now. Use the code YouTube150 and you will get a 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125% bonuses on your second and third deposits, all the way up to $2,000. Another good question from Landry Locker coming up here. I'm going to chop the answer up into 2 parts here, but Landry asked him about the 3rd and 15 incompletion that wouldn't have even mattered if it was a completion at the end of last week's game.
What was the line of thinking on the final offensive series, specifically the 3rd and 15 play?
Yeah. So the 3rd and 15. I mean, like the starting point is, man, that's a bad call, right? So we go into it thinking hopefully we get inside leverage or off corner. Like really what they've shown in similar situations is 3 guys across the end zone, off corner or inside leverage on Tank. Gave him a route he scored on last year, really the same part of the field. And then instead we got outside leverage press, which is hard. Like that's not what the route's for. They doubled Steph. So really for the quarterback, you got to get all the way to the backside answers, which would have been good on that play, but he's already been hit 12 times. He's not, it's everything trickles down in the NFL, right? So it's not always any like one given play. I think what CJ did in that moment was 100% right. Like we can't hold on to the ball. We got to get the ball out of our hands and look be darned a little bit, So to me, like it's the fact that we've had the protection issues early in the game that we're not confident being able to hang in the pocket.
So credit again to Bobby Slowik for owning up to it being a bad play call. It wasn't necessarily a bad play call as much as a bad anticipation of what the Packers were going to do. If the Packers had lined up 3 deep, then so be it. It could have worked out. I think he's not criticizing CJ there, and is 100% true. I think the clock in CJ's head was, all right, we got to get the ball out of here. We don't want a negative play. I know I can complete it to Tank here. But at the end of the day, where you're just trying to chew clock there, if you don't have a touchdown, I mean, he would have been better off just taking a sack in terms of just forcing the Packers to use a timeout. But the other part of it, coming all the way to the backside, John Mechie, I think given where the safety was and where his eyes were, and with CJ working the front side reads first, probably CJ could have gotten John Mechie for a touchdown there, and that's a game winner. So not a crushing of CJ Stroud there, but I also go back to what CJ said on Wednesday, which is nobody was in CJ's headset telling him exactly what their strategy was there, what he should be thinking. And I'm not personally criticizing CJ for that either, but I think the whole methodology, and I think maybe how much you're looping in the quarterback on the situational football, like CJ can handle more. CJ said on Wednesday, he's told the coaches, put more on my plate. And I think this is one of those areas. He's not a rookie quarterback anymore. So the second part of the answer was Bobby addressing the run calls on 1st and 2nd down, particularly the run on 2nd and 12 before the ill-fated 3rd and 15 pass.
And then along the same lines, like we're 1st and 10 from, I want to say the 12-yard line, something like that, I think was that first down. We call a run because Joe was in a groove. We get blown off the ball. Next thing you know, it's 2nd and 12. They run the same pressure. I call a run play we've called 5 times in the game. It was our best run by far, which is premier against the pressure. And, we executed it worse than we did the other 5 times. We lose 3 more yards, and now 3rd and 15's tough anyway. You know what I mean? So it was a bad situation all the way around.
So that's an interesting one because, okay, the compromise of, okay, we want to chew clock up, but also, look, we do want to score a touchdown. The play call in that instance, that was a good play call. Titus Howard just didn't get to his guy. Kenyon Green sealed his guy, but allowed too much penetration, so it was poor execution by the offensive line. And some of this comes back to, okay, it's one thing to run the ball and to accumulate yardage and Joe Mixon get over 100 yards, but can you run the ball when you need to run the ball? And right there, those were physical breakdowns on an otherwise good play call. If it was 3rd and 6 after that 2nd and 12 run, and Joe Mixon realistically could have scored a touchdown possibly, would have had to probably just beat the cornerback on that play. So that does come back to, okay, those weren't mental errors or issues by the offensive line. That was just the offensive line not winning their reps. And they face a couple of really good interior defensive linemen this week versus the Colts. That's the part where that rests solely on the shoulders of the offensive linemen and simply having to play better physically. I don't want to completely let them off the hook for some of their tactical failures, especially in the run game. But this is also the offensive line that after week 1, after the Texans played the Colts, I was high as hell on this offensive line. Like I was sitting in an offensive line cafe in the Netherlands. That's how high I was. Or basically 35 non-Texas states in the U.S. right now. Next question came from Cody Stutz about basically halftime adjustments.
How malleable is what you guys do on offense throughout the course of a game, and specifically coming out of halftime? I don't know that coming out of halftime in the third quarter has gone really well for you guys that much this season.
No, it hasn't. That's been an emphasis for us. We've been talking about that really around the same time we started talking about being on the road. Let's hone in on how to use silent and how to make that a weapon for us and handle crowd noise and things like that. We've also emphasized coming out of half. And probably the game we emphasized it the most was New England, and that showed up, right? And we executed well. Defense helped us, gave us a short field. In this last game, we didn't. We came out, and I think the first play, again, they blew us off the ball on a run play, and that's not like we adjust scheme pretty consistently as we go through a game. I'd say every game, we react to what they're doing, they react to what we're doing, but it's never things we haven't seen before, So by and large, we're staying within the game plan. It's more we gotta find a way, and we're working on finding a way to make sure our mentality is right when we come out of the half, that we're ready to go.
So I thought that was really interesting just because Bobby had already established that, look, he wasn't going to make any excuses for some of his play calls or some of the things that went wrong in the game. But that answer boiled down basically to these guys need to be more dialed in when they come out from halftime. I don't know if they're having too many orange slices. I don't know if they're just hanging out and checking their Instagram at halftime. Whatever the hell it is, they need to come out with a bloodlust. I want my offensive linemen to come out and take it out on the opponent for every time anybody's ever called them fat. Anytime anybody's ever told them, hey, you're an offensive lineman, you shouldn't be wearing skinny jeans or be so active on Instagram. All that, take it out on them. Go water boy on their asses, okay? And this would be a good week to start. I do think that, look, the Texans have shown an ability to figure out defenses for the final drive or late in the fourth quarter. We've seen plenty of instances of that. It's these stretches of punt after punt after punt in the third quarter that just are lethal and put so much pressure on your defense to come up again and again. The more crucial the game becomes, that they've just got to figure out. So more bloodlust. That's my simple request. In football and in life, please, more bloodlust. I do feel confident in the Texans this week. They're heavily favored, although the line has gone down. I'll do a preview for tomorrow, so please look for that. Like, subscribe. If you subscribe, that preview will just pop right up, especially if you put the notifications on. Thanks, everybody.